They didn't block my road, they deleted it, like it was a typo in their master plan. I left town for 5 days and came back to find out I apparently no longer had a way to reach my own house, which is a pretty creative interpretation of luxury living in the hills. If you ask me, let me back up a sec. I live at the very end of a half-mile gravel road off County Route 18 here in Tennessee. 10 acres, rolling pasture, old cedar fence lines that lean a little but have stories in them. The road's been there since 1964, laid down when this county had more cattle than cul-de-sacs. It's not paved, not pretty, not Instagram-worthy. It's packed gravel over red clay, a little dusty in summer, a little slick in spring. But it's mine. And more importantly, it's protected by a recorded easement filed with the county long before anyone ever thought to put the word preserve on a stone entrance sign. That road is my lifeline. Groceries come down it. UPS trucks bounce down it. My sister drove down it the day we buried our dad. When you live rural, access isn't convenience, it's survival. You don't just move someone's only entrance like you're rearranging patio furniture. For years the land between me and Route 18 belonged to an old farmer named Delmare. He leased it for soybeans and once told me, as long as I'm breathing, nobody's building condos out here. Delmare passed 2 winters ago. His kids didn't farm. They sold. That's when Harbor Crest Development rolled in with glossy brochures and a temporary roadside sign that read, Stonehaven Preserve, Luxury Living in the Hills. Executive homes starting in the 800s. Because nothing says hills like bulldozers and drone footage, right? They showed up with survey stakes, drones, and a project manager named Brandon Kessler. Black Range Rover, polished shoes, teeth so white they looked professionally optimistic. The first time I met him, he was standing near the mouth of my gravel road with a civil engineer, both staring at a tablet like it was going to solve me. You planning on paving my driveway? I asked from my F-150. He laughed like I'd told a charming joke. We're just reviewing the layout. Beautiful property you've got back there. I use that road every day, I said. It's my only access. He nodded smoothly. Of course. We're aware there's an easement. I made it clear, recorded, permanent, filed in '64, not some handshake agreement. He gave me that corporate smile and said, We'll make sure everything's handled appropriately. That phrase stuck with me. Handled appropriately. Sounds responsible. Also sounds like, we've already decided what that means. Still, I didn't lose sleep. Developers come and go. Paperwork is paperwork. My easement was ironclad. 2 months later, I left town for 5 days to help my sister in Missouri after knee replacement surgery. Locked up the house. Porch light on a timer. 12-hour drive back, gas station coffee, podcasts, that good tired where all you want is your own bed. I turned off Route 18 at sunset and stopped dead. Where my gravel road should have been, there was a dirt berm. 8 or 9 feet tall. 50 feet across. Packed tight like God pressed his thumb down and said, Nope. On top of it, bright orange construction fencing. Signs every 20 feet, private property. No trespassing. My mailbox cluster? Gone. The wooden post with my address? Ripped out. The mouth of my road carved up and flattened into a newly paved street curving left toward their development. They hadn't blocked my road. They had erased it. I sat there in my truck, engine idling, staring at this wall of dirt like I'd stumbled into the wrong timeline. A security guard in a neon vest jogged over. Sir, this is a restricted construction zone. My house is back there, I said, pointing. There's no residential access beyond this point. I live beyond this point. He shifted his weight like he'd been trained not to think. You'll need to contact the site office. I called Brandon right there. Hey Matt, what's up? What's up? My driveway is gone. Pause. Not surprise. Just recalculating. Oh yeah, we realigned that corridor. The original path cut through our primary boulevard. Didn't make sense from a design standpoint. You realigned my access? We created a new access point on the east boundary. It's actually an improvement. I didn't ask for an improvement. We didn't block it, he said. We relocated it. That's when something in me went quiet. Not yelling quiet. Cold quiet. I'll call you back. I booked a motel 15 minutes away and lay there staring at a ceiling that wasn't mine, thinking about that berm. Around midnight, I pulled out my laptop and dug up the easement. June 3rd, 1964. Typed. Signed. Notarized. 60-foot right-of-way from Route 18 straight to my gate. It said perpetual. It said runs with the land. It said in black ink what they had just bulldozed. At 6:30 a.m., I called Laura Bennett, my attorney, known her since high school. Subaru with dog hair in the back seat, messy bun. Doesn't look intimidating until you realize she knows property law in this county better than anyone. They moved my road, I told her. Silence. What do you mean moved? Gone. Bulldozed. Her voice sharpened. Send me pictures. Send me the easement. I drove back, took photos of everything, the berm, the destroyed gravel bed, the new paved boulevard cutting straight across my right-of-way. I found their so-called improved access on the east boundary, a narrow gravel spur snaking through low ground that floods every spring. An afterthought. Laura called back 20 minutes later. They can't do this. That's what I thought. No, she said, steel in her voice. They really cannot do this. An easement is a property right. They'd need court approval to relocate it. Compensation. Process. They didn't ask because they assumed you'd roll over. There it was again. That assumption. By noon she'd filed an emergency motion for injunctive relief. By afternoon the court scheduled a hearing for the next morning. The courthouse here isn't big, creaky floors, portraits of retired judges staring down like they're still judging. I wore the only suit I own. Brandon showed up in navy, polished, calm. Networking smile. Laura laid it out, timeline, language, photos. Described the berm, the destruction, the unilateral relocation. Brandon's attorney argued good faith. Claimed they'd improved safety and usability. Judge Whitman leaned forward. Was the original easement extinguished through a legal proceeding? No, Your Honor. Was there written consent? No. Then on what authority did your client destroy the existing right-of-way? There wasn't one. The ruling came fast. Injunction granted. Restore the original easement within 72 hours. Remove the obstruction. Reinstate access. Pay my legal fees. Failure to comply would mean contempt. You could feel the air change. Outside, Brandon finally dropped the networking smile. This didn't have to escalate. You buried my road. We offered a better solution. You offered something I didn't agree to. He shook his head. Development requires flexibility. Not from me. Here's the twist nobody talks about. When Laura filed that motion, she copied the county planning department. When the judge issued the order, it triggered reviews. Destroying a recorded easement without authorization doesn't just irritate one landowner. It raises questions about permits, site plans, compliance. 2 days later, county inspectors rolled in. Hard hats. Clipboards. Laser levels. They weren't smiling. They looked at everything: stormwater drainage, grading limits, setbacks. Turns out when you're rushing to build $800,000 dream homes, sometimes corners get shaved. They'd graded beyond approved boundaries in 2 sections. A retention pond sat too close to a property line. Nothing catastrophic alone. Together, a pattern. Bright red stop work orders went up on every lot in Phase 1. 15 homes. Framing halted. Concrete trucks canceled. Realtors explaining to buyers why construction was temporarily paused. Temporary turned into indefinite. Investors out of Atlanta tightened funding. Contractors drifted elsewhere. All because someone decided my road was expendable. Meanwhile, they tore down the berm. The first scoop of dirt peeled away like reopening a scar. Gravel trucks came in. Crews worked under floodlights, restoring the road to prior condition, exactly as ordered. I stood there leaning against my truck as the shape of my road reappeared. It wasn't glamorous, but it was straight, familiar, mine. Brandon pulled up in a polo, no suit this time. You're costing us millions, he said quietly. You should have read the deed. We had subdivision approval. Did you have approval to erase my access? He didn't answer. 3 days later, I drove down that restored half-mile for the first time. Fresh gravel crunching under my tires. I stopped halfway, cut the engine. Wind through trees. Quiet again. Development requires flexibility, he'd said. Maybe it does. But flexibility isn't surrender. And progress doesn't mean erasing the people who were there first. A month later, I heard Stonehaven Preserve was restructuring. That's the polite term. The big stone entrance sign stayed up for a while like a monument to ambition. Eventually even that came down. Sometimes I wonder how Brandon tells this story. Maybe in his version I'm the stubborn landowner who tanked a visionary community. Maybe he says I refused to compromise. But here's the truth. I never asked for a fight. I asked for a road. The one promised in ink back in 1964. Yeah, I felt vindicated watching those stop work orders go up. I won't pretend otherwise. There's a certain satisfaction when consequences land where they're due. But underneath that satisfaction was something heavier. It shouldn't take a courtroom to make someone respect a boundary. It shouldn't require public humiliation to make a corporation read a deed. What bothers me most is how easy it was for them to assume I wouldn't push back. That because I live alone at the end of a gravel road, I'd accept whatever they decided was better. Maybe sometimes growth outweighs inconvenience. Maybe sometimes relocation is reasonable. But not like that. Not without consent. Not without process. I still drive that half-mile every day. Dust in summer. Mud in spring. I've thought about paving it, just to remove the irony, but gravel makes people slow down. Makes them feel where they are. So here's what I'm curious about. If you came home and found your only access relocated without your permission, would you see it as progress or overreach? Would you negotiate after the fact, or would you draw a line in the gravel? At what point does development become entitlement? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me if you think I was justified or just stubborn. And if you've ever had a neighbor, an HOA, or a developer decide your boundaries were flexible, I want to hear how that turned out. Because out here at the end of this gravel road, I learned something simple. If you don't defend your access, someone else might decide to reroute your life.